Glad you're with us to get to know the candidates before you vote. With us right now is Brent Jones. He's running in District 18. He'd like to replace Elaine Davis, who holds that district. It covers a big part of Knox County, but it looks like an amoeba when you look at the map.
It does.
So we'll talk about you on the campaign trail and where you've been in all those neighborhoods. But first, let's just talk about your background. Veteran prosecutor, you are a military veteran, as well as a professor as well. Explain what you think gives you the tools to be the best representative in District 18.
Most definitely. Thanks, John, for having me. So I, from Middle Tennessee, ultimately went to UT for college and then law school and then joined the Air Force. And so I both prosecuted and defended cases in the military. And then back in 2018, I moved back here to become a federal prosecutor here in the community, here in Knoxville, prosecuting drug trafficking cases. And so I've now been in the arena, if you will, for the last 20 years. I've both prosecuted and defended cases, but the majority of my career has been prosecution. But again, I think being in the arena, being a litigator for the last 20 years has equipped me with the skills to essentially work with others. What I was doing is I was zealously advocating for my client, the United States of America, but also making sure that justice was served. And you know, while I was zealously advocating for my client, I had someone on the opposite side doing that for their client as well. Mm-hmm. And so I've been doing that for the last 20 years. And now I think that's equipped me with the skills to be able to take that to the legislature and do the same thing, essentially, as a Republican nominee for a Republican candidate for District 18 representing East Tennessee.
We talked about your campaign trail and knocking on doors. What are the issues, the top issues that people are asking you about or wanting you to tackle?
It's different across the district, and like you said, it stretches from South Knoxville all the way across to Cedar Bluff. And up to Ridgedale and Pleasant Ridge, and so it's all over the place. But I hear education, I hear public safety, I hear growth, and so traffic, a number of issues, and one of those that really is near and dear to my heart is veterans and seniors. Mm-hmm. A lot of the folks that I talk to and have knocked on their doors, they are. Affordability is tough for them right now, and so they're having a tough time getting by. They live paycheck to paycheck. They've either served their country and now they've moved back to East Tennessee after serving, or they've worked their entire career. They've saved money. Now they're on Social Security, and so they're just doing their thing at 70, 75, 80 years old, but it's hard for them to get by. And so they're concerned with affordability in our community.
And as a state lawmaker, how do you work to change that or make it more affordable?
Well, and you can work multiple ways. Obviously, the way we get our income here in Tennessee is property tax, sales tax, grocery tax, that sort of thing. And so we have to look at are those taxes that are imposed on our citizens, are those taxes that we need for our state to survive, and who needs to be paying those taxes?
Would you consider a moratorium or an end to the sales tax, for instance, on groceries?
That's something certainly that I would look at. Obviously, there's a state grocery tax. Mm-hmm. And then there's, city and county tax on top of that. So the state grocery tax is 4%. And so we're getting, again, right off the top of my head, I think the numbers are, around $800 million. I think out of a $59 billion budget, we get $800 to $900 million from state grocery tax. Mm-hmm. And so it's significant, but it's something that will certainly, that I'm willing to look at, because those are folks, that is money that folks that live here, that they have to spend. And so if we can help them out in any way, that we can, and we can help folks out across the board, that's something that we want to do
You
and want to look at.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
You also mentioned growth, and that's a huge issue. Senator Massey on transportation on the Senate side has talked about re-looking at the pay-as-you-go method in Tennessee. Right now, for our viewers, if TDOT does a project, it has to be paid for. They don't bond for that project. She's saying to get done what we need to get done, we need to re-look at that. Is that something you would consider?
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, for sure. But here's the thing. I mean, we are as a pay-as-you-go state. I think maybe last year we've done a little bonds, but again, we're essentially pay-as-you-go. But we have a backlog. Multi-billion-dollar backlog on infrastructure, and so we need to do something. Obviously, TDOT is completing a survey. They locally had multiple. I think they had an open house, sort of, if you will, and TDOT personnel. I went to the one that was outside of Bearden, but it was super informative. And I think right now the study, it's going to be completed at the end of this year. It's looking at choice lanes as sort of probably what they're leaning towards recommending is what makes the most sense for Knoxville. I know Commissioner Jay had put out a proposal that was in Knox News-Sentinel here recently. Again, bold proposal as well. I love that folks in East Tennessee and Tennessee are now recognizing that this is an issue. We've had this issue for a long, long time. I came here to college from 99 to 2003, and traffic was bad then. Moving back here after the military in 2018, it's even worse. And so we're going to have to come up with solutions. And rather than just talking about it, I think the legislators need to do something. And I know Senator Massey has tried to do something. She's been talking about it. I've been to local forums where she has spoken. I went to Three Rivers Republican Club where she spoke recently about this very issue. And so obviously there's ways to look at that. If we're talking about choice lanes, then it's going to be potentially a private-public partnership where someone comes in and they will actually help. They'll fund it, they'll build it. They fund it. They actually help us provide more benefits, and
so that's attractive to you as an option.
Well, most certainly. If someone potentially can come in and we don't necessarily have to pay for it, or we can only assist in paying for it, that is beneficial to East Tennesseans, in my opinion.
I want to ask you about public safety because you were in that arena on leading the effort to help prosecute fentanyl cases and other drug and opioid cases. Are there laws that you think need to be hardened in the state or changed in any way based on your expertise? Yeah.
So fentanyl trafficking is very concerning. I was hired as the synthetic opioid prosecutor in 2018 for the Department of Justice here in Knoxville at the Eastern District of Tennessee, at the U.S. Attorney's Office. And so I was focusing primarily, it was twofold. It was one, I was prosecuting overdose-related cases, and then I was also prosecuting the drug traffickers, and so large-scale drug traffickers. And so you focus on the death-related cases, and then as well as the large-scale drug traffickers. And so as I was doing that, I realized that the majority of individuals that are trafficking these drugs are not Tennesseans. It's coming from out of state. And so, you can look at a number of sources online, and it's pretty easy to know. But with East Tennessee, most of our fentanyl and fentanyl analog drugs are coming from the north, coming from the Michigan area, but they're being manufactured in Mexico, which is interesting because methamphetamine and cocaine typically comes from Atlanta, which is also being manufactured in Mexico. And so, but it's the way that I-40 and I-75 work. And that's why Knoxville is the source city. But that being the case, I believe that we can focus on laws that will deter folks from coming to East Tennessee. We need to stiffen punishments for both drug traffickers coming from out of state, making the sentencing laws stiffer for those that are committing those acts. But in addition, John, what I wanted to mention too is violent crime, violent crime and property crime. Knox News-Sentinel just reported 2 days ago that we ranked number 46 in safety in the country. that's super concerning. And I know, most recently, we've been, Memphis is a tough area, Nashville's a tough area, but we have problem areas in Knoxville as well. And so we want to make sure that we're focusing on not only drug trafficking, but also legislators are looking at the state laws, focusing on property crimes and violent crime and making sure we are being tough on crime in those areas. Only
30 seconds left. What makes you different than Elaine Davis? Why will you be a better representative?
Right. She's served our state for the last 4 years, and that's great. I'm a serious conservative that grew up in Middle Tennessee. I moved to East Tennessee, and I went out and saw the world, what the world has to offer in the military during my service, and I see how wonderful Tennessee is, and I use my other experience as a comparison to Tennessee, and I think it is the best place to live, work, and raise a family. And that's certainly what I want. I believe that perspective I have both in the courtroom and the ability that I have in seeing, or the experience that I have in going to see the world and the country, and then coming back and bringing that experience to East Tennessee makes me the most equipped and the most qualified person in this race to represent East Tennesseans in Nashville.
Brent Jones, we appreciate the conversation. Thanks very much. Best of luck to you.
Thank you so much, sir.
You can watch our other interviews with candidates that will be on the Know Before You Vote page on WBIR.com.